Hey gorgeous soul, I'm Zoe and welcome to the Oasis State podcast, where we dive deep into all things emotion, energy and intuition. Remember to follow and share the pod, and let's get into it. Hello gorgeous soul, welcome back to another episode. So if you have pressed play on this episode, I'm assuming you are feeling overwhelmed. Your mind might be racing. You're emotionally all over the shop. You're physically tired. You're spiritually here, there, and everywhere. And this is the exact episode that you need, my loves. It's going to help you sort of take a breath and find the way out, basically. So yeah, it's firstly, if you are feeling like this or if you've experienced it in the past, but you obviously have some relation with feeling a sense of density and a sense of overwhelm. So you've pressed play on this episode. Firstly, we're going to go straight into it, and I need you to be really compassionate with yourself. If you are experiencing density and overwhelm, there's nothing wrong with you. That's just part of life. We are not meant to be high vibing, positive, feeling light, easy and flowy all the time. We can definitely spend most of our experience like that for sure, but it's okay if it's not your baseline right now. By pressing play on this episode, you are taking the steps to make that sense of alignment, the clarity that you're looking for, the flow, the lightness, the ease, more of your baseline state of being. But in the meantime, there is absolutely nothing wrong with you that this has happened. You might know why it has happened or you might not, but I just want to give a few reasons why you might be feeling overwhelmed or feeling quite dense. It's because you are outsourcing your power and your relationship with life to something exterior to you. So you might be ruminating on the past and feeling guilt and dread and heartbreak, loss, confusion, etc. Or if you're feeling, sorry, that was really loud. Or if you're feeling a lot of anxiety, you are projecting way too far into the future. So the quickest and easiest way to shift this density back to a place of lightness and clarity and ease is simplifying everything. We need to come back to the present moment and look around and realize that everything's okay. Also, you may have absolutely no idea why you're feeling dense and overwhelmed, and that's completely fine as well. It's not actually, I think when we don't know why we feel the way that we do, we automatically want to sort of turn over every stone and flip the coin and try and figure out why we're feeling like this. Sometimes we don't need to, especially if we're trying to shift the density back to a place of lightness. It's like we can't solve a problem from the same place that it was created, quotation marks. You know what I mean? So we don't actually have a problem, but I'm just using that analogy to let you guys know that we can actually zoom out and simplify a lot of things in our life in an effort to shift the overwhelm and density. And I promise you, a lot of the time that you'll find that there actually wasn't a problem, or there's no answer, there's no solution that you needed for the problem or the confusion. Sometimes, because of the highly sensitive, holistic beings that we are, we just get a little bit out of alignment. And by bringing ourselves back into alignment in a holistic way, which I will explain in this episode, you'll find you actually forget about the problem. So if you're here like, oh, I'm overwhelmed, I'm feeling really dense, I need to get to the bottom of it. No. For the two reasons that I just mentioned. One, there probably isn't actually even a problem. We just need to get you back into a vibrational state of being. And that isn't woo-woo. Like, it is a thing, but it doesn't mean that we're not doing physical, mental, emotional, and holistic, spiritual things, which are the four holistic, counterparts. We need to be doing those things to get us vibrationally back into a space where we're feeling light and clear and full of life and grateful and all of that jazz. And yeah, it's also sort of a situation of like the chicken or the egg. Like, is there a problem, or did you just get out of alignment holistically and now your body, mind, emotions, everything are looking for the threat or the problem? So that's sort of the first port of call with how to shift our density and overwhelm into a place of ease and lightness is don't go looking for the solution, because you cannot solve a problem from the same energy that it was created in. Is that landing? So, step one of how to shift our overwhelm and our confusion and density, whatever word you want to put on it, back to a place of just comfort and light and ease and all of that, is back to the basics. It's not like a riveting part of, not riveting advice, but it's something we often overlook as the very complex human beings that we are, especially as women. There's a lot of like hormonal, biological things going on as well that can cause our density. And actually just want to do a little tangent quickly. We also just need to remember that this density that you're feeling is only temporary. Just like your high vibrational moods and happy moods and wins and all of that, they're also temporary. So we need to be creating a relationship and a sense of detachment with time and permanence, because nothing is permanent. And what you're in right now, even though it might feel like there is absolutely no way I could ever come up for air, or there is no way that anything will be able to fix this, I promise you it will and it can. So that was my little tangent, but we're going back to basics. So if you're feeling dense and overwhelmed, take a good hard look at your sleeping pattern. Take a good hard look at your diet. Take a good hard look at your movement. How are you moving your body? What's your osmosis like? So osmosis is, what are you absorbing every day? Are you sitting? Are you watching TV? Are you scrolling nonstop? Are you having shitty low vibrational conversations with people? So shitty low vibrational conversations would be, judging people, talking shit about other people, not spending your time when you're connecting with people constructively. So we need to be coming back to these basics first. And I want you to commit to regulating these basics like your life depends on it before we move into a space of educating ourselves about the density. So we're regulating and educating. But if you're feeling dense and you're feeling overwhelmed, we're not going to go looking for the solution. Like I said, we've probably outsourced it to ruminating on something from the past, or we're feeling anxiety about the future, and that's outsourcing our power, because the past is not real anymore and the future has not happened yet. It is not real. So we're going to come back to the present moment and go back to basics, because we are these complex biological, physiological beings at the end of the day. So if you're not sleeping properly, if you're not putting the right nutrients in your body, if you're not moving your body, then that might have caused you to move into a space of overwhelm or density, because you are just physiologically not in a state of homeostasis. So homeostasis is basically our body at all times is aiming to reach this balance, this level of balance. So, the right acidity to alkalinity in our body, the right, all of the things. We've got the right neurons firing, etc., etc. So we need to remember that we are just like complex plants. So if you've got a plant that's like rotting in the pot, we're going to go straight to the environment. Okay, so the plant is not in the sun, or actually I haven't changed the soil in like a year, maybe it needs more nutrients, etc. We need to remember as human beings that we are also just very complex plants. So if you are resonating with what I'm saying and you're feeling dense, I need you to commit to going back to the basics. And you might be there like, yeah, but I'm feeling so overwhelmed I can't sleep, or I'm feeling so overwhelmed I can't look after myself. I'm sorry, babe, but no one is coming to save you. This is that huge tough love accountability piece. And I know it's hard because I have literally just been through this in the last week. For a little bit of another little tangent, but a week ago I released my first book. It's called Dead Parents Club, and it's a story of my grief journey and navigating the loss of my dad, who was a parent. And then the second part of the book is navigating a whole bunch of reparenting practices, rituals, techniques, education that I've had to navigate to basically put myself back together. So amazing achievement. I was so proud of myself. I've already had people buying the book, and I'm just sitting here like, oh my God, I'm a self-published paid author. What is going on? It's amazing. And just being able to be so present and so grateful for this huge thing that I've achieved. But then, because I've literally just made it available for anyone in the entire world to read, start to finish, my very in-depth about my grief journey, I've had so much emotional overwhelm come up. It was almost like the first few days were like a bit of an emotional hangover. And I was like, that's okay. It'll shift. It's fine. I just need to rest and soften, etc. But as the days have gone on into this week, currently, as I'm recording this, so much has come up. So in the second part of my reparenting, like the reparenting section, which is part 2 of my book, I dive deep into abandonment wounds and attachment styles, codependency issues, like, did I say abandonment wounds? Forgiveness practices, emotional alchemy, like all of that stuff. And obviously in the process of me writing that and editing it and proofreading it, it stirred up something within me that I needed to soften and witness and send a lot of love to. So that's why I'm sitting down to record this episode basically this week, is because even, sorry if you heard that in the background, that's my dog just living his best life. Even when we're on such a conscious co-creative journey with the universe, like I achieved such an incredible goal last week. Like I said, I'm now an author. Like on my like vision board, I've wanted to be a podcaster, an entrepreneur, and an author for so long. And I am a podcaster because you're listening to this podcast right now. I am an entrepreneur because I have offerings through my business, and I get to help so many beautiful women navigate change and loss and emotional intelligence and all of that. And then the third piece of the pie was becoming an author. So even though I'm on such a conscious, high vibrational, expansive, evolutionary journey, there's still going to be times where I have to shift density and I have to shift emotional overwhelm. And I have complete awareness of why that's happened. But like I said, you don't need to know why the emotional overwhelm and density happens sometimes. But thankfully this week, I'm very aware of it because I'm like, okay, well, there's obviously some level of soothing that I need to provide to my inner child because I have just navigated this whole reparenting journey over the last few years, and it came to its crescendo through releasing the book. So this week I've practiced what I'm preaching on this episode. And like I said, I gave it a bit of time. I was feeling overwhelmed, and I was like, and that's the thing, guys, sometimes, as I mentioned, because emotional overwhelm is temporary and the density is temporary, I didn't jump straight into these getting back to basics and everything else that I'm going to speak about in this episode straight away. Because sometimes you just like, okay, well, I had the highest of highs and, it was a big vulnerable share, and I'm expanding into a new identity and reality where I'm a paid author now, and that's fine. So maybe this is just a little bit of we have the flows and then we have the ebbs. Maybe this is just a little ebb. I need to have a nap, watch some trashy TV and chill out. And then over the last few days, it's sort of just really festered and I really wallowed in it for a few days. And that's completely fine because I gave it the space to shift without me needing to put much energy there. And sometimes that can happen. That's happened to me a lot of times. I just feel a bit of an ebb, and I practice self-compassion for myself and softness and self-love, and it can just up and leave the next day. Sometimes you go to bed and you wake up and you're like, oh, there we go. It's all gone. But this week I've needed to actually get back into the driver's seat of my experience, which I always am, but, really leaning on that really beautiful, diverse set of tools that I have to come back into alignment. And I'm so grateful for those, because when you have weeks like I have, you need to remember that no one is coming to save you. So I, did wallow in it for a little bit, and I had these moments where I was like, oh, I just need a hug, and why isn't anyone helping me, etc. And obviously there's nothing wrong with outsourcing some support. Community is really important. And yeah, it's okay to want to hug and things like that. But and I've had support from friends, and I've, all of that stuff. But in those quiet moments when I was by myself, I went straight back into the density. And that's when you need to realize that no one is coming to save you, and friends and hugs and support and everything are just basically prolonging the shifting of the density. They can help with it as well, but there is a point where you need to realize drawing a line in the sand, and you're like, no, okay, now I need to go back to hanging out with me, Zoz versus Zoz, and pulling myself out of this, because no one is coming to save me. And to help you sort of understand that no one is coming to save you analogy, I think I've probably mentioned on other podcasts as well, but you right now with your emotional density and your overwhelm, you're like Harry Potter, or pick your poison with whatever fantasy stuff that you're into. So you might be Batman or Superman or Harry Potter or whoever. It's okay to experience emotional overwhelm. That's why we're so obsessed with fantasy movies and action movies, etc., because it's like the hero's journey, and we can see all of the highs and the lows and the emotions reflected back to us in the books that we read and these movies and these TV series. But your Harry Potter or your Batman, they have support networks around them. Harry Potter has Hermione and Dumbledore and Ron, and Batman has, is it Alfred, his butler, and he has, people that help him. But at the end of the day, Harry Potter still needs to go out there and defeat Voldemort, and Batman still needs to go out and defeat, the Green Goblin, or, all of the array of villains that he has out there. So I wanted to share that analogy, or that, that character piece for you. Like, what's the word? Like, method act your greatest hero when it comes to shifting this density back to a place of lightness, because you can have all this support in the world, but at the end of the day, you're Harry Potter, you still need to pick up that wand and kill Voldemort. So you might feel like, whoa, I'm not, you might be feeling really emotionally squishy and wanting to come onto this episode and get, inspired, which you are getting inspired, but it's also like, I'm not going to beat around the bush and tell you to like, oh, it's fine, just, outsource your power. There is a point where you need to remember you are the hero in your own story and journey in life, and you need to get in the driver's seat and realize that no one is coming to save you, and do these things. So yes, getting back to basics, please commit to these basics for basically until you feel better. Like, I was going to say like a few days or a week, but that's just me reflecting my experience right now. And there are so many factors involved with my ability to shift this quite quicker than, other experiences. One, because I've been doing this for years, like I'm very, very equipped with it. And two, I am in my ovulatory phase right now in my menstrual cycle. So I'm in my inner summer. I have, all of my hormones and my neurotransmitters and my body basically on my side right now. But if I was in my luteal, where all of those hormones and everything sort of drop down and we can sort of get harder on ourselves, and if that inner dialogue is a bit louder, it might have taken me a bit more time to shift this. But I was thankfully in my ovulatory phase. So if you're a woman listening to this, be mindful that you are literally 4 different versions of yourself over a month. And if you're not aware of your cycle, please start educating yourself. Let me know. Reach out to me. I can do an episode on each week. So we have 4 phases in our menstrual cycle that lasts average 28 days. So if not, there's so many free resources online, podcasts, fucking ChatGTP probably will help you, like there's no excuses to not take accountability for your menstrual cycle and how it affects your moods and your mental space, like your overthinking, your whatever it is. There's no excuse anymore, because we live in this amazing digital age where all of this stuff is available to us at all times. But don't educate yourself until you regulate. So we're regulating and then educating. So yeah, I was about to say that, go back to the basics for like a week or so, but that's just my reflection in this moment. But just do that until you start feeling better, and set the intention that clarity will come to you once you start going back to the basics. So if you're, someone that projects into the future and feels quite anxious, you might be there like, Zoe, fucking having a nap and cooking a healthy meal isn't going to solve my problems. I fucking promise you it will. You need to do that to get your body back into this as best possible state of homeostasis, and set the intention that clarity or inspiration or whatever it is that you want to shift from this overwhelm will come to you once you regulate. And then go out there and educate yourself, like I said. And this doesn't have to just be educating yourself on your hormonal cycle. If you're, say, going through a breakup, educate yourself with podcasts, with, books, with all of this content out there to help you shift in this, very, it's a big season of change that we go through with a breakup. But if you are just educating yourself and not regulating with all of these tips that I'm providing you, you're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to loop. You're going to think that you're healing. You think that you're better, but you're going to loop basically. So we're going back to basics. You might be here like, yeah, but I'm so overwhelmed. I can't sleep. I'm such a light sleeper. There are so many things out there that can help you get a good night's sleep. And I unfortunately am a really light sleeper. Actually, no, I'm manifesting that by saying that. But in this present moment, I have a relationship with feeling like I'm a light sleeper, but I'm educating myself to become a deeper sleeper. And so it might be a case of find yourself a sleepy tea. I've got a Shakti mat, which is like those acupressure mats. And I lie on that every single night before I go to sleep because it is proven to release melatonin, which helps you sleep and it regulates your nervous system. So I've got all these little hacks that help me get to sleep because I've been there. I've been there where your mind is racing and you're so overwhelmed and you're crying and you're this and that and you're so dysregulated in your nervous system that sleep just feels so foreign to you. But again, no one is coming to save you. There are so many hacks out there to help you get to sleep. There's even those sleeping gummies. Something else that's really been helping me get to sleep is exhausting myself physically. And this is not in a toxic way, but if you have a sedentary lifestyle where you're sitting at a desk for your job or, not getting out and about and moving your body, of course, you're not going to have a good quality of sleep because you're not exerting enough energy throughout the day. So when I've been, in this space of density this week, I have been going to the gym as much as possible. And another disclaimer for women, weight training is one of the most crucial ways to move our body for improved bone density and hormonal regulation and estrogen, like all of these things. Like I could go really deep into that, but I feel like I'm getting on a tangent now. So even just start there. If you're already moving your body and eating well and you can't sleep properly, etc., you can't keep doing the same thing and expecting a change. So the change that you're expecting is, the density to shift or the overwhelm to shift or to find some clarity. But if you're doing the same shit that you've been doing for 2 years, I'm not surprised that you don't have a shift. You know what I mean? So if you're already moving your body, do something different. Pause your gym membership, or if you're a runner, then go to the gym. I actually primarily move my body a lot through modalities that are very playful. I roller skate and I surf like all the fucking time. So I'm not actually even aware that I'm moving my body because I'm having so much fun, and that's very regulating as well. That's going to help you shift that density because I'm integrating play very naturally into my, the daily priority of moving my body. And that's really important because that comes back to not, like I said, we're not punishing ourselves by exhausting ourselves and moving our body and punishing ourselves. We're celebrating that our body has this ability to move and we're doing that. So I also run, or if I am due for my period and I'm feeling a bit, not as highly energetic, I'll just do a really long walk and I might listen to a meditation or a podcast or music or just go for the walk. I live here on the Gold Coast, so there's no excuse not to walk. There's so many beautiful footpaths right along the beach where you can just walk on the sand if you want as well. You do you, babe. But yeah, there's no excuse not to walk at all, basically, where if you're in a geographical sense, if you're living in a city, and you're catching the bus home after work, walk for an hour and walk to a further bus stop or walk the whole way home. You need to be integrating this movement into your day. One, to just shift the density in general because it's so important to move our bodies, but then two, to be getting that good night's sleep. So yeah, all right, I think I've covered the basics. And then the next things we're going to do are coming back to this experience of realizing, especially as women, that we are emotionally complex beings. So, sorry, I'm just going to change. Hopefully the sound quality is okay. I'm just going to change hands with the mic. I'm just sitting on the couch relaxing. So I just wanted to, just got to rechange. Okay. As women, we are emotionally complex human beings. And there's the whole hormonal piece involved as well. I've already given you that disclaimer to go and educate yourself about that. But we also need to get into practices where we are feeling safe in our body to experience our emotions. And, we've had a lot of trauma. There's a lot of ancestral stuff. There's the patriarchy. There's, all of this stuff where we've been gaslit about our emotions. But as women, our emotions our sensitivity is our superpower, but it will not become your superpower until you jump in the driver's seat of it right now. And one of the reasons you might be feeling dense and overwhelmed right now is because you are not honoring your sensitivity as a woman. And no one is going to take your sensitivity seriously until you do, basically. And I'm not by any means, what's the word? I'm not by any means saying it's acceptable to be like gaslit or, like be treated poorly because you're emotional. But basically, again, it's coming back to that message that no one is going to save you. It might be beautiful to have friends and a supportive partner and all of these things to help you regulate. But if you are still feeling overwhelmed or uncomfortable with your own company when you're by yourself, then you need to start taking your sensitivity more seriously so it can become your superpower. How can we do that? We can do that by journaling. And I'm smiling as I'm saying this because I have been so resistant to journaling this week. And usually when we're resistant to journaling, or whatever you're most resistant to, is usually the thing that you need the most. It's going to be the most potent healing thing. So don't dig your head into the sand. You need to put pen to paper and have a little journal. I was feeling quite resistant to that, as I mentioned. And so what I did was I habit paired. So today when I went and got my groceries, I went into Kmart and I bought a new journal. And, go and buy yourself a new journal, or go and buy yourself a new pen. Or if you've got what you need already, sit down and pop a beautiful playlist on. Like, we need to pair other habits and rituals that we enjoy with the thing that we're avoiding, so we're not so avoidant with it. And we're going to sit down and I'm just going to journal. I'm not going to go into detail about journaling right now. What else we need to do to help our emotions is regulate our nervous system. So that's sort of going back to that point of like going back to the basics, because, slowing down and having sleep and eating well, nourishing your body, etc., they're going to help you regulate your nervous system. But we also might need to hone in on things like somatic practices and some yoga or some EFT tapping to sort of reboot our nervous system. But you know what? We don't actually have to even do, if none of those things that I just mentioned resonate with you, the best way to start regulating your nervous system again is to slow down. So you might be like, oh, but I have a million things to do. I don't care. Like, your life depends on it. You need to regulate your nervous system to have a better experience with life. And if you're not regulating your nervous system down the track, it will manifest as other physical, ailments and misalignments and diseases and things like that. Sorry to get really morbid, but it's true. So what we can do just day to day to be, again, this is sort of habit pairing. We're like implementing this nervous system regulation into our day to day. So we're not like, oh, I didn't do my somatics today. Slow down. So you can keep doing all of the things that you want to do, but if you're not present and purposeful with them, then you're dysregulated in your nervous system. So you might be like, I have so much housework. Okay, cool. Slow down. As you've got like your scrubbing brush, slow down and witness, you doing those circular motions in the bowl to clean it, and really slow down to be present. And as you're washing the water off the bowl, and that's going to bring us back into this beautiful state of alignment, because we're coming back to the present moment, which is the safest place for you to be right now. And I'm sort of segueing into something else, but I'm going to flow with it. And that coming back to that presence is going to shift you out of that emotional density. But also you'll find when you're in that present moment, you start realizing how beautiful life is, and it'll bring you back into this state of gratitude. And gratitude is just the most potent way to come back into a feeling of ease and lightness, and also regulates your nervous system, because gratitude is one of the quickest ways to get into our feminine energy. And if you're dysregulated in your nervous system as a woman, it's probably because you've been living predominantly in your masculine energy. And that, again, fucking patriarchy, blah, blah, blah. But practicing gratitude and practicing presence gets us into our feminine energy, which is our receiving energy. And it's so soft and beautiful, and a surefire way to shift the density and the emotional overwhelm. So I have there is a beautiful person in my life, and he gave me some advice that when I was feeling super overwhelmed over the weekend, like that really dense part of like the vulnerability hangover from releasing my book. He said it to me a few times, and I was implementing it over the weekend is basically what I'm trying to say. But he blew me away with his ability to just strip back any conditions around gratitude. And I'm probably going to butcher what he tells me, but I'm just going to say it anyway. He says, Zoe, you've got oxygen. Everything's going to be fine. And we can say, and we've said variations like you've got oxygen, food, and water. That's enough to be grateful for. And it just blew me away. Like I said, it was such an unconditional lens with which to practice gratitude, because we can have these gratitude practices where you're like, I'm grateful for my friends and I'm grateful for my home. And it's so great to be grateful for those things. But if you're so deep in your density that even being grateful for the roof over your head is hard right now, I encourage you to take his advice, which has just lit up my world as well, to remember that you have oxygen. Everything is going to be okay. Like, it's not that deep and it's not that serious, guys. And I just remember I was at the beach with my dog on the weekend, like I said, just in this overwhelm and this emotional vulnerability hangover, etc. And I remembered his advice, because sometimes when we're in the, the overwhelm and the density, it's hard to get clarity, And thankfully I had that beautiful download and reminder of what he tells me all the time. And yeah, I just started repeating it to myself, and I just laughed. I was like, you've got oxygen. You're all good. Mind you, I'm like at the beach with my dog on a beautiful day here on the Gold Coast, and it's sunny. But it was like I had to come back, strip all of the conditions around gratitude back to just remembering that oxygen is moving in and out of my lungs. Like, what a beautiful thing that is happening at all times that we completely take for granted. And I started laughing when I realized that. And then I could feel this upward spiral with that gratitude practice coming in of like, I've got oxygen. And then I'm like, look how cute my dog is. And then I'm like, the fact that I've got, this toy in my hand, I've got the physical ability to throw it so he can play. And oh my God, look at the sky. It's blue today. And it was so beautiful to just come back to the purity of, I've got oxygen. Everything is going to be okay. And then I could spiral back from that through that beautiful purity. And then I shifted, and it was so, so beautiful. And so that's a practice you have to come back to all the time. So I shifted then, but then I've like had waves of up and down. But basically, we are complex, emotional, sensitive human beings. And you're not just going to be like, oh, I've got oxygen, it's fine. And then just like everything shift. This is a practice that you need to come back to and do all the time. So as well, you might be here like, oh, well, you've mentioned the basics. But as I was finishing my book, the work-life balance really went out over the last few weeks, because I'm editing and I'm writing. And even when I tried to walk away from the book, I'd have all these ideas and I'm like, shit, go back down and write it. But it was such a beautiful exercise in realizing that by me taking away those basics and, sleep and eating, moving my body, regulating my nervous system, journaling, practicing gratitude, community, all of that stuff, even in the shortest amount of time, I let those things not be such a priority. It's insane, the emotional overwhelm, but also the ruminating in your thoughts, ticking, 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 ticking. And then also, I suppose, because I was sort of so burnt out, then my osmosis sort of went dipped a little bit as well. And I'm just scrolling on my phone and I'm watching trashy TV, etc. And that's just a beautiful practice in, so being in a state of alignment and a state of clarity and a state of ease is a constant practice. And like I said, I've got experiences where it is literally my baseline. So I think that's why this experience over the last week or so has just been, it hit me for six, because I was like, whoa, I have not been this out of alignment for a while. But it's I had to dig back into my practices, get back to basics, and just make it happen. It's been such a beautiful journey, and I've just quadrupled my self-care. I did an infrared sauna this afternoon because I was struggling to meditate. So I did the habit pairing thing again. And I just went and did a 30-minute infrared sauna and meditated while I was in there, because I was like, okay, well, I'm just sitting in this box anyway. And the chick that I went and did it with, it was at a place in Palmy, she's like, okay, you can like watch Netflix and all that stuff. And I was like, oh no, like I'm in here to like sit with myself sort of thing. So again, that's another reminder to habit pair. But also, like I said, if you're already doing all of these things, that's amazing. But if you're feeling the overwhelm, just remember that it is temporary. Be patient with yourself, change things up, because you can't keep doing the same thing and expecting things to change. And yeah, just remember that this whole journey of finding ease and lightness and your alignment is a lifelong journey. But in my experience, it can become your present constant experience, and not constant, but like your baseline experience. And I hope this episode has inspired you to, and maybe even shifted some things already as you're just listening to this and just realizing like, oh, I don't need to beat myself up because I'm feeling overwhelmed. That's just part of being a sensitive, beautiful human being. And everything's okay. It's not that deep. You've got oxygen, guys. Alrighty, I'm going to leave it there, my beautiful, gorgeous listeners, and I'll see you on the next episode. Hey, my loves, I hope you loved the episode. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to all things Oasis State, and I'll see you in the next episode.